Hello and welcome back to Geek and Speak, the Geek and Speak podcast. Been a while since we've done one of these. Last time we did this, it was for our top 10 video for the last set, Dominaria United. And now we're doing it again. Top 10 video for the brand new set, The Brothers War. Today I have my brother, Steven. How you doing, Steven?
Oh, fine, I guess.
Fine. Cool. So what we did in the last top 10 was we were averaging out our list. We both had a top 10 and we just averaged out our answers, and that was the top 10 we used. But this time it's weird because Steven and I have a completely different top 10. We only have one card in common, and it's both our number 10. So we're actually just going to try to spitball through all of these as quick as we can, and hopefully we can do it in the amount of time that Zoom lets us do it. So I'll go ahead and start us off with the one card that we both have in common. This is number 10 on both of our list. This is Calamity's Wake. If I can get it to load. Actually, I could oh, there it is. Calamity's Wake for 1 and a white is an instant that says exile all graveyards. Players can't cast non-creature spells this turn. Exile Calamity's Wake. So there's no way for you to like keep recasting it from the graveyard or whatever in unfair, disgusting ways. Steven, I can pretty easily explain why I'm really a fan of this. What about you? What makes this card stand out to you? What puts it in your top 10?
It's anti-Muldrotha.
Oh, it is anti-Muldrotha. One of my favorite decks is Muldrotha. And it's going to be in our next episode of Upkeep, which is actually going to come out this Friday. So make sure you are subscribed and you tune in then to watch that game. This is pretty fun. But yeah, that deck, when it goes off, it's really strong. So it is graveyard hate, which I think all decks should have a little bit of graveyard hate anyways. Flexible graveyard hate, I think, is better. Like if you need a graveyard hate, it does that. But if you don't need it, then it does this. Calamity's Wake, I think, is really cool though, because it reminds me of a card called Silence. So we got this: players can't cast non-creature spells this turn. So if you're like playing a combo deck, right, and you're about to combo off, or you're even if you're not comboing, maybe you just have a really big creature that you need to resolve in order for you to win the game or to get really far ahead or catch up or whatever. This can just be like, all right, I'm going to play this so that I'm not going to get like countered. So you can like turn off their counter spells or whatnot. So I think that's probably the stronger mode than the exile all graveyards. But yeah, is there anything I'm missing on this one? Or is that probably about it?
I mean, that's about it.
All right, Steven, why don't you lead us through your number 9?
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna have to go back.
It was I'll go ahead and read it and then you can just explain it. So Steven's number 9
Okay.
is Diabolic Intent for 1 and a black, a sorcery that says at an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature, search your library for a card, put it in your hand, then shuffle. Steven, go have at it. Tell us about this card.
I mean, it's basically a not quite as good version of Diabolic Tutor, but in ways, it's like I can see it be better in decks where you're purposefully sacrificing your creatures.
Yeah, I mean, I have a Thraxamundar deck, which is all about everyone like it's mostly about making other people sacrifice creatures, but then there are synergies where it's good if I sacrifice creatures because there's a lot of things that's like everyone sacrifice a
Mhm.
creature, or I have Dictate of Erebos in that deck, which says if a creature I control dies, everyone sacks a creature.
Hate
So
that card.
if that enchantment's in play when you cast Diabolic Intent, then not only do I get to go find the best card of my deck to put into my hand for any given situation, but I could also make everyone sack a creature. Ah, oh, savage. And Diabolic Intent, it's actually an older card, but this printing is going to make it modern legal, which will be interesting. I don't know if it's going to be quite good enough to see modern play, but I could see that being the case. Maybe in some kind of creature-based combo deck, maybe, because that's the thing is like tutors are usually for combo decks, and combo decks usually don't run a lot of creatures. So it's this weird give and take. But do you see a situation where you might play this in Commander? Because you pretty much exclusively play Commander. So what are
I
you
mean,
kind of thinking for this one?
I could see me putting it in. So I could see it putting it in the deck that I played on the Christmas episode, um, which will be coming out on
That
the your
uh
birthday.
yeah, it comes out December 16th is when the Christmas episode's coming out. We
Yeah,
just
so that's like,
we just filmed it 3 days, 4 days before this video is gonna come out. So yeah, that was
mhm.
a really fun game. That was actually either my favorite or second favorite game we filmed so far. And we filmed 7 games so far.
So that was and part of what the deck does without spoiling it is you end up sacrificing your own creatures is the deck that I played. Um and I could see that going in there. Um I
And
could see
not to
it.
bring Muldrotha up again, but in Muldrotha, it's also good because if I have like a creature with a strong ETB, I have it out, I sack it to go find the best card of my deck, and then I could just recast it again with Muldrotha and get more value. So like
Yeah,
graveyard decks in general, I think would just like it in general. Yeah, I think it's
yeah.
really cool. I'm scared it's going to be expensive. But is there anything else you want to note on that before we move
Well,
on?
I mean, because it's like Diabolic Tutor, but kind of worse, but kind of better. I could see it being cheaper than Diabolic Tutor.
Hmm. That's probably going to be true. Well, it is worse than Diabolic Tutor. I think there are very niche situations where it's better, but I think overall it's not as good.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think it will be cheaper. And Diabolic Tutor's or not Diabolic Tutor. Sorry, Diabolic Tutor sucks. Don't play that card. Uh, Demonic Tutor. Demonic Tutor is actually a good card. Uh, I could see that maybe that's probably better because you don't need to have creatures in order to play it. But who knows?
Hmm.
I think it's got potential. All right, so my number 9. This is a planeswalker, one of the couple planeswalkers in the set. This is Sahili Filigree Master, 4 mana, 2 blue, red, 3 starting loyalty. Her +1 says, scry 1, you may tap an untapped artifact you control. If you do, draw a card. -2, create 2 1/1 colorless Thopter creature tokens with flying. They gain haste until end of turn. And then -4, you get an emblem with artifact creatures you control get +1/+1, and artifact spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Now, by no means do I actually think that this planeswalker is very strong, but the budget game that we are doing this season in our Commander gameplay series, I am playing a Thopter tribal deck. And I don't know if we have $50 budgets in that game. I don't know if this is going to end up being cheap enough that I can stick it in the deck, but if it is, I'm going to. It would be so good in a Thopter deck. So that's part of why I'm so excited about it. But I think in just generic senses, I think it's probably pretty good in just artifact decks in general if you're in these colors. Do you have anything
I
to
have
add on
nothing to
that?
say. I have nothing to add.
Not a big artifact player. So Steven, why don't you lead us through your next card?
Uh, can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you. Steven's got to
Okay,
flip back and forth.
yeah, my number 8 is Mishra's Command.
What's it do?
Oh, I thought you were gonna read it.
Oh, well, I can read it. I'll read this one, but from
It's a
now on,
lot
you
harder for
read
me
your
to
own
do it
cards.
because I'm doing this on my phone.
Fine. All right. But we're gonna figure something out so next time we don't have to do it like this because it's annoying. So Mishra's Command is a sorcery for X and a red. Choose 2. Choose target player. They may discard up to X cards. Then they draw a card for each card discarded this way. So kind of a mini wheel, but more control. This spell deals X damage to target creature. The spell deals X damage to target planeswalker, and target creature gets +X/+0 and gains haste until end of turn. So, why is this your number 8?
I just think it has good flexibility for the red player.
I think so too. I think the commands in general tend to be really good cards. I don't know if these are the first mono-colored commands, but I don't think that any of them are inherently strong. I think part of what makes the commands good is that they're usually instant speed, and so these new ones being sorcery speed, I think makes them a lot worse. And I don't think that if this card was an instant, would it be too strong? I don't think so.
I don't think it'd be broken. I mean, it'd definitely be better if it was an instant, obviously, but I don't think it'd be broken or anything.
Okay.
Probably not.
Yeah, I don't know. I just wish it was an instant. I would like it way better. But I like the flexibility. I think my favorite mode. What's your favorite mode on here? My favorite is the mini wheel effect, the first mode, because the best situation for it is target yourself doing that, right? Say you have a bunch of cards in your hand. Maybe you have 4 cards in your hand and only one of them is something you want to keep. You can cast this, discard the other 3, draw new cards. Like, that's great. So I see that being huge, especially like you get bonus energies if you're in like a graveyard deck or a madness deck. But even just in the I need something that's better for this situation, I think that's amazing. But what do you think is the best mode on that?
Well, so when I was looking at someone wants to join us. My cat. When I was looking at that card, I was kind of thinking of that first effect being in my I have a deck that I've been working on with Bralin and Shabraz as the companion commanders. And so I mean the point of the deck is to whenever you discard cards, one of the commander gets bigger and you deal 1 damage to each opponent, and then whenever you draw a card, you gain life and that commander gets bigger. So just a lot of drawing and discarding stuff is really good. But it also just has good flexibility because you can still deal damage to planeswalker or creature or what was the last one? Get plus
X plus
X
0
plus
and
0
gain haste till
haste.
turn. I mean, there are situations where that can help you win a game, I guess, but
yeah.
I don't know. And I think haste is probably underrated. Like, haste is better than we give it credit for, but
oh yeah, haste is really good.
Well, was there anything on that one, or should we move on to the next card?
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
All right. So my number 8 is Awaken the Woods. This is a sorcery for X green green. Create X. Yeah, so X green green sorcery, create X 1/1 green forest dryad land creature tokens. They're affected by summoning sickness because they're creatures. This is awesome. There's Dryad Arbor. Is that the name of the card that this is based off of? It's so interesting. It's literally a card that has its own rules in competitive gameplay because it's so confusing. But I just think this is great. Now, granted, if you cast this for 3 mana, it doesn't feel very good. You spend 3 mana, you get a 1/1. That doesn't feel good. But if you spend 4 mana and you get 2 1/1s, that's even better. And it scales up. The more mana you spend, the more good it feels. And these are lands. So they're creatures if you need creatures. Like if you're trying to go wide and just get a bunch of damage in, it does that. But if you just need to ramp into a giant creature or a giant spell, it does that too, because they're lands. I think it sounds like a downside.
Better in my token deck.
Yes, then it's busted. There's a scary part of it where it's like because it's a creature and a land, if someone goes, okay, we're gonna cast Wrath of God, destroy all creatures, that gets rid of all your lands. But if you do something, it gets around it in another way, because if you cast like Hour of what's the white Hour card from Hour of Devastation?
Hour of Revelation.
If you cast Hour of Revelation, it says destroy all non-land permanents. So these would stick around because they're lands. Mm-hmm. It's so if you plan ahead a little accordingly, then it gets even better. So I just think this card's great. It scales well. It in the early game, it does a little something. In the late game, it does a lot of something. If you need creatures, cool. If you need ramp, cool. It kind of does it all. And if last I knew, this is like the most expensive card in the set. So I think everyone else tends to agree. But Steven, what is your next card? Unless you had something else to say about that.
No, yeah, I just think that's a really good card. Could help with ramp, could help you with just creating a bunch of token creatures. I think it'd be even especially good in my token deck. That's about it. Number 7, I have Skitter Battalion. And honestly, like, I wish this card was blue or green.
So Skitter Beam Battalion is a 9-mana 4/4 with trample and haste. And when it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, create two tokens that are copies of it. But it also has prototype. So you can cast it for 3 red instead. That's a 2/2, and it gets the same effect. So what were you saying about it? You wish it was blue or green?
I said if this card was either blue or green, it would be much, much, much higher on my list. But it's not because, and I say that because of my Simic token deck. That's my favorite deck. But it's not. It's red for some reason. And
It's because it has haste. Haste is a red effect. I guess
whatever. I said green creatures.
Green
has
sometimes has
sometimes.
haste, but green does everything. That's why green has haste. It's because green does everything. Green steals from every other color, except for board wipes. Luckily, still green doesn't have very many good board wipes.
Or counters.
Yeah. Well, no, there are some green kind of counter spells. So this is actually a spoiler alert. This is there will be one other prototype card on this list, but I think prototype's pretty dang cool. I
like the idea of it.
I like the idea of like if you need a creature now, cool, but if you can save it for later, then it's even better. That's pretty cool. Especially I think most of the higher rarity ones are pretty good. I think the like commons and uncommon ones for the most part aren't very good, but the rare and mythic ones are pretty decent. Is there any? So, do you think you'll play this anywhere? Because you don't play red a ton.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's kind of what I was gonna say. Like, this card would be awesome if it were green or blue, and then I'd definitely use this card. But because
you have a Adrix and Nev deck,
right? Yeah, and then you'd create even more token copies of it, right?
Yep.
So
it would get out of hand.
Instead, it's red. So can I play this realistically? I mean, no.
If it had a stronger ETB effect, I would probably play it in my Osgear deck, my red-white artifact graveyard deck, because that could be pretty dang good. But I just don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I'd play it, but I do think prototype is a cool mechanic, and if we do another artifact set in the future, I would like to see it again. I think it's really cool.
I agree. It's a cool ability. Cool thing you can do.
So what number are we on now? So my number 7 is Monastery Swiftspear. This is not a new card. This is a card that's been around for a long time. If you're into burn, especially in modern or legacy, you've seen this card before. This is Monastery Swiftspear for 1 red mana. It's a 1/2 with haste and prowess. Prowess being, again, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, it gets +1/+1 till end of turn. This card is bonkers. It's so good. If you play this on turn 1 in a modern or legacy burn deck, you're probably going to win. It's just so good. What makes this exciting for me is, well, one, being standard legal is cool because it's going to help aggro out a lot in standard right now. In standard, aggro is not great, but there's a budget mono red deck that's actually really good. And I think this might be the last little nudge it needs to actually be a really effective deck. And also, I might be wrong, but I think this printing also makes it legal in Pioneer, and Pioneer's starting to kick off. So the more that we can keep Pioneer fresh and exciting, the happier I think the overall community for Magic will be. But as someone who primarily plays Commander, Steven, do you think this card's any good?
I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember what you said it in.
It's Monastery Swiftspear. It's a classic card. For 1 red mana, it's a 1/2 with haste and prowess.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it could be good in standard. I'm not saying it's bad, and it would be bad in Commander. I think.
Okay, so I don't. Yeah, I think in Spellslinger it's probably decent in Commander, but I've never played it in Commander just because if I'm going to play a bunch of 1 mana creatures and small creatures that are going to be like not great. Well, okay. The Swiftspear is pretty decent in combat because it's tricky, because if you attack with it and they declare blocks, then you can cast instances before the damage happens and you can make it bigger and you can trade better. So it's tricky in combat. But even then, I think a Commander is just too hard to gauge I don't. Yeah, I don't think it's that good in Commander, but overall, Steven, what is your next card?
I don't know. What are we on, 6?
Yeah.
Over the top. I just think this is a really fun chaos card, you know.
Yeah, so for 5 red is a sorcery. Each player reveals a number of cards from the top of their library equal to the number of non-land permanents they control. Put all permanent cards they revealed this way onto the battlefield, then put the rest into their graveyard.
So
I didn't remember seeing this card. I might need to put this in my Yidris Chaos deck. This is pretty
yeah,
fun.
it
This
is
is pretty
chaos,
fun.
isn't
Yeah. What are you thinking about this card, dude? Like, what are you gonna do with that? Or do you just think it's fun? Like, do you not specifically have a home for it, but you're just like, I just kind of want to see someone do it, even if not me?
I could potentially see it putting it in my werewolf deck. As that tends to be, that's a pretty heavy creature heavy deck.
Mm-hmm.
And so hopefully doing that, I'll be able to get a lot of, and werewolves are pretty cheap in mana cost. Hopefully I would already have quite a few out by the time I play that card. I could potentially see me putting it in Joda.
I think late game in Joda it would be good, because if you do it too early in Joda, like if you do it too early in Joda, you're probably going to screw yourself over, because you need a lot of your non-creature, or you need a lot of your instances and sorceries to fix your mana, to ramp and all that. But if you're late-ish in the game and you just kind of want to flood the board, I think in your Joda deck it would be really strong.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Beyond that, I don't think I'd see me playing it much. Mainly just those 2 decks, maybe. But it is just like a really fun card.
I don't like spending a ton of money on my Yidris Chaos deck because I know it annoys people when I play it, so I don't play it that often. So I don't know. If this card ends up being like not bonkers expensive, which I don't see it being, I could see it being like a couple bucks. I'm probably gonna get it for that deck because it's really cool.
It's a cool card.
I am at this weird point though where I'm having a hard time making cuts for that deck because I'm like, oh, but this card's so mean. I don't want to take it out. It's so funny. I don't want to take it out. It's like, well, I could cut a land, but I can't cut lands because don't cut the land. After all, why not? Yeah, it's rough. But anyways, my next card I think is really strong. This is Fade from History. For 2 green, it is a sorcery that says each player who controls an artifact or enchantment creates a 2/2 green bear creature token, then destroy all artifacts and enchantments. This is so good, especially in Commander. I think I think in actual formats, in constructed formats, I don't think, like, maybe this is a sideboard card, but I doubt that even. 4 mana, you could just win. Like, instead of trying to do this. But in Commander specifically, where everyone's playing mana rocks, most people have at least a couple enchantments running around. I could see that being the case. But Fade from History is, I think the best comparison is like Beast Within, which this is 1 more mana and sorcery speed instead of instant speed, but you get rid of all of the artifacts and enchantments instead of just 1. And they get a 2/2 instead of a 3/3. So that just seems like a huge upgrade. Anything else?
No,
it's good.
Wait, I have a quick. Did it say each opponent or
each player? Each player.
So that includes yourself.
Right. And obviously this is way better if you're not playing a lot of artifacts and enchantments, which if you are playing a green deck, chances are you probably don't need as many artifacts because you're land ramping or creature ramping, so you don't necessarily need the artifact ramp as much. But who knows? Steven, your next card, what is it? Is it the Megatron?
Is it Megatron? I don't remember.
So Megatron Tyrant for 3 red, white, black is a 7/5. Oh my god, this is so many words, dude. Artifact Legendary artifact creature robot, more than meets the eye. 1 red, white, black. You may cast this spell converted, which means flipped on the backside, which we'll read in a minute. Your opponent can't cast spells during combat. kind of interesting. At the beginning of your post-combat main phase, you may convert Megatron. If you do, add a colorless for each 1 life your opponent has lost this turn. And then on the back, where is it? It is Megatron Destructive Force, which is a 4/5 living weapon. As long as it's your turn, this vehicle is also a creature. And whenever it attacks, you may sacrifice another artifact. If you do, Megatron deals damage equal to the sacrifice artifact's mana value to target creature. If excess damage would be dealt to the creature this way, instead that much damage is dealt to that creature's controller, and you convert Megatron. Steven, did you understand any of that?
It's a lot of words.
It's so many words.
I know. Just imagine someone trying to build a whole deck around Megatron, or really just any of the Transformers.
All of these some of them I think are actually kind of cool. None of them are in my top 10. You have one other one in your top 10, right? Not just this one. You have one other.
Optimus Prime, because it's Optimus Prime, Morgan.
Yeah, okay, but
no,
there's so many words. What about it's cool? Do you just think, oh, Transformers? I like Transformers. Because we know that the Michael Bay Transformer movies are like your all-time favorite movies, right? As Sean would say.
No, Sean is incorrect. But Bumblebee's the only good one, and he's not even in it, so who cares?
Yeah. I mean, I just think it's I think it's silly. I mean, I understand that the universes beyond is kind of here to stay. You know, like we're just gonna keep going down this trail. It's a matter of time before we get like an Arby's secret lair or something, you know, like it's gonna keep going downhill, you know. But
it's like Soul Ring, but it's like one curly fry that's like a perfect circle.
Excellent. The power of the curly fry.
It's just an onion ring or something like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, onion ring would actually be good. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, are you gonna build a commander deck around any of these?
I mean, honestly, if I were to build a commander deck around any of them, it would probably be the Optimus Prime. I don't know how much these cards are going for right now, but I'm willing to bet they're pretty rare in packs.
They're not as rare as you would think. They are if you open set boosters or if you open collector boosters, I don't know. I don't think it's one per pack, but I think it's like 1 in every 8 packs has one of them or something like that. Like it's kind of like how they do the list, like for the Stranger Things Secret Lair when they were trying to print the magic versions of those cards, and none of those cards ended up being expensive. All of those ended up being really cheap. Because like even if it's just like it's only those kind of boosters and it's only 1 in 8, there ended up just being enough of them out in the market that they weren't that expensive. And also these are weird. I don't see a lot of people wanting these.
No, but I think this would be just a really fun deck to have it like just a commander deck, like an artifact creature commander deck with it's like Optimus Prime or.
I do think a couple of them are pretty cool, but all right. Well, we'll get to Optimus Prime in a minute because I think it's your next card on the list, but I'm going to go ahead and read my next card. This is Cityscape Leveler. For 8 mana is an artifact creature construct that's an 8/8 with trample. When you cast this spell and whenever it attacks, destroy up to 1 target non-land permanent. Its controller creates a tapped Power Stone token, and it has Unearth for 8, meaning you can cast it from your graveyard.
This card's it's especially really good if you're playing against someone who's not playing artifacts.
Yeah. So Power Stones are pretty limited.
Enjoy your token that you can't use.
Yeah. I mean, I think Power Stones are better than people give them credit for. I gave Karn Living Legacy a lot of crap when it came out. You can watch that video if you want. I dug real hard into Karn, but I've played Brothers War Limited, and I did a draft once or twice now, that I can tell you that Power Stones are better than they look because it's not just casting artifacts, which there are just enough artifacts in Commander that matters. But you can also use them to activate abilities. But here's the thing. Yes, but here's the thing. I'd rather give them, like, think of it like this. If it's a land that you can only use, like, let's say 30, 40% of the time, I'd rather give them that than whatever the heck the thing is that I'm trying to blow up. You know? I think like I think whatever that exchange is probably good. Like if someone has Emrakul out, I'd rather just get rid of the Emrakul and I'll give them the stupid Power Stone, you know? Like they're only going to use it every now and then anyways. So I think it's probably pretty good. I think it's a flavor fail that it's called Cityscape Leveler and it says destroy non-land permanents. I think if it could destroy non-land permanents, it would be a lot better. But yeah, I think this is sick. It's going to my Osgear deck. I might have another deck or two that I could stick it in. Do you think you might play it in like your Joda deck or something, just so you have more removal?
What's its mana cost again?
8.
So it's an 8/8 with trample.
Yep. Which that by itself is like, hey, that's a thick creature. But then it's like whenever you cast it or whenever it attacks, you also get to blow something up.
I think if it was only whenever it attacks, I probably wouldn't have it in there. But it's
Right.
also when it enters the battlefield.
No,
I
it's
think
on
that
cast. It's on cast. So
Or,
even
yeah,
if they
right,
even if they
cast.
counter it,
Yes.
you still get to blow something up.
I think because of that, that would make me want to put it in Joda. Yeah. Because when you cast it.
Right.
Also.
All right, Steven. So we talked a little bit about Optimus Prime, but now it's your number 4 card. It's time to actually spend some time talking about it. So this is another card that's going to make me want to throw up from how many words it is. So this is Optimus Prime Hero for 3 blue, red, white. It's a 4/8 with more than meets the eye. So you can cast it for its backside by paying 2 blue, red, white. At the beginning of your end, at the beginning of each end step, bolster 1. Choose a creature with the least toughness among creatures you control and put a 1/1 counter on it. And then when it dies, return it to the battlefield, convert it under its owner's control. And the backside is a 6/8 with trample and living metal. Whenever you attack, bolster 2. The chosen creature gains trample until end of turn. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player this turn, convert it. Okay, that one is a lot easier to read, but tell me a little bit about what you like about it. You said that if you were going to build a deck out of one of these Transformers, it would be this one. So tell me about how you would go about it. Tell me like what stands out to you, all that.
Well, so can't stop it. I'd probably like to have it would be interesting to have a creature type besides just be vague with artifact creatures. And with the bolster ability, I mean, you're making your stuff bigger, your smallest thing bigger. Probably get some vehicles in there, and maybe even some of the other Transformers that share the colors with it. And I think another thing that's really cool about these is, I believe, because when it's in the the command zone, I think you can pay the what's it called, the other one, when it enters on the vehicle.
More than meets the eye.
Yeah, you can do that, and I believe that would negate commander attacks, right?
That's a good question. I guess I don't know. My guess is not, but because that's a relatively unique ability, I don't know if that's something we've seen before. I don't know, but maybe. That would be pretty strong if it did that, though. It would be really hard to like permanently answer. You would need like Imprison in the Moon or Kenris Transformation or something like that to like permanently remove a commander, or have Draenith Magistrate out or something. Yeah, it'd make it really hard to deal with. And also, I think that's a really interesting color combination for a bolster mechanic. Like bolster in red white, I could see, but then adding blue, it's like weird. Which also, do you know? Like you do. We meme on you for being a Transformers fan, and you're really not like a diehard Transformer fan, but you know more about it than most people that I know personally. So, in your limited knowledge, is there a reason that you can think of that all of them are white? Because all of them are white, right? There aren't any that aren't. Like, why is Megatron, who's a villain, why is he white?
Dude,
I mean,
I don't know.
I know that like white in Magic doesn't mean you're a good guy by any means, but I don't know. It just seems weird to me.
No, I don't know. I don't know enough about Transformers that you guys think I know.
Sounds
I
like a
don't. I've seen like there's like one cartoon that was on when I was like, I don't know what, 10, that I sort of kind of would watch. And then I saw the Michael Bay movies, and that's it. That's
yeah.
all of my Transformer knowledge is there.
And the Michael Bay movies, I would argue, are not even that good.
Uh, I think Bumblebee's good, and I think the first one's good. I actually think Age of Extinction's okay, but then like the rest kind of suck. Yeah.
Well, Age of Extinction is the one with the dinosaurs, right? And then I didn't see that one, but then didn't the dinosaurs not come in until like the end of the movie?
It was closer to the end of the movie.
Yeah, that just sounds annoying. I'd rather they be like the main characters or something. I think that would be way cooler. All right, well, so do you think this will be something you build or not? Or just like maybe
I guess it just depends because I already have a tricolor deck with these three colors, so it's like
Jeskai?
okay, well,
Yeah,
so it's not a big priority of mine, but it would be pretty cool if I did it one day, especially if we were one day to have like for upkeep we have like artifact only decks. I think this would be really cool to
that
pull
would
out
be
then.
cool. We thought about doing that for season one with the Brothers War coming out, which next week we're gonna post a little 1v1 game with Steven and I playing the new Commander precons. It's not as high quality as Upkeep. It's just a really simple, just us playing it on the table, but you can see those decks in action a little bit. But we thought about in doing that where we do an all artifact game in preparation for the Brothers War. But honestly, we did a themed timing with the Warhammer game, and dude, it's so much work. It is so hard to be like, okay, we have to film this like the second we get the cards in hand, and then we also have to edit it really fast. Because if you miss the window, I mean, there's new Magic stuff coming out so often, so fast that if you miss the window, you're not going to get the traction. I mean, that video has like a third as many views as the first episode of Upkeep. And yeah,
Oh,
so
not even, not even.
yeah, so I mean, it's just like it would have been cool, but yeah, if you guys are helping us gain to where we can be monetizing our channel and getting good traction on the series, we will do a second season after this one, and I could definitely see us doing an artifact game because I think 3 artifact decks. I love
Looks over
artifact
at the
decks.
15 artifact
Yeah,
decks he has. Or commander decks.
all of these are commander decks right here. All of those are commander decks. I guess I don't know, depending on how you crop that, I might not get to see it. But yeah, I have a lot of commander decks. I think I have 3 artifact decks. I love artifact decks. But speaking of artifacts, my next card is Phyrexian Flesh Gorger for 7 mana. It's a 7/5 Phyrexian worm with menace and lifelink, and then ward, pay life equal to its power, and it has prototype for 1 black, and it's a 3/3 if you pay the prototype cost. This is so good. This is like probably the strongest of the prototype cards. It is like so first off, menace and lifelink on an efficient body. Like no matter if you pay the 3 mana version or the 7 mana version, it's a good decent creature, a 3/3 for 3 mana with menace and lifelink, or a 7 mana 7/5 with menace and lifelink. Good. But then the ward is bonkers. If you do the ward on either mode, it hurts too bad that people will probably just try to chump block it for days instead of trying to remove it. Just because that is so much. If this is a 7/5, like if you cast it for that, it's broken. Like it like you can't. I could be like, oh, I'm going to Swords to Plowshare it. It's like, no, you're not. You're gonna lose 7 life. You is that really worth it? I would think not. It's just, oh man, it's so cool. It's so scary.
It is a good card. Yeah.
Something, Steven, that I meant to mention when you were talking about your prototype card is that if you cast these for the small version, for the prototype version, and you have some way to flicker it, so like exile it, return to the battlefield, or something like that. If you do something like that, it comes in as the big version, not the prototype version.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So that would be even bonkers. So you like 3 mana, here's a 3/3, that's a decent creature, and then you could find some way to flicker it, and then boom, all of a sudden you have a 7/5. So good. Yeah, I'm gonna need to try to put this in a deck or two. It's terrifying. Did you have anything else for that one, or are you just like, yeah, it's scary?
It's cool.
Yeah. Steven, your next card is one with the multiverse, and my throat hurts. Do you have it pulled up, or do I need to read it?
You're gonna have to read it.
Ah! All right. Well, after I read it, I want to go get a drink of water. So you talk about this card while I'm doing that. All right. So this is one with the multiverse for 6 blue enchantment that says you may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may play lands and cast spells from the top of your library. Once during each of your turns, you may cast a spell from your hand or the top of your library without paying its mana cost. I want to go get a drink of water. You tell the people why you like this card so much.
Well, I guess I'm hosting now, so this is my channel now, I guess. So I especially like this card because I think it would be really good in my Joda deck, of course, as I am trying to play as just many as big things as I can. And then, oh, he's back already. That was quick. That was quick.
I try.
Okay. I didn't get very far into it. I just said it'd be good in my Joda deck. That's pretty much it.
Well, that would be true, but it isn't anything that's more than like 6 or 7 mana just automatically decent in Joda because you can just cheat it out with Joda.
I mean,
You're right though. This does
know,
give you a lot more advantage, and then it's gonna increase your ability to potentially like cast multiple spells in a turn. Because I mean, as good as Joda is, there are a lot of times where you don't quite have enough mana, so it's like you get to cast one big thing with Joda, but then that's most of your turn. So like this will increase
right.
your chances of being able to do more stuff, and then it's also going to decrease your chances of missing your land drops because you're able to play lands off the top. And this card is really cool. In a lot of ways, I think it's a kind of a less good version of Omniscience. I think it's probably the best thing to compare it to. But even then, Omniscience is like if you run out of cards, you're out of cards. So this kind of helps get around that a little bit. It's kind of like you have an extra card in your hand. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's a good one.
Yeah. So my next card is so cool. This is Gix, Yawgmoth Praetor for 1 black. It's a 3/3 Phyrexian Praetor. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to one of your opponents, its controller may pay 1 life if they do draw a card. And then for 4 black, discard X cards, exile the top X cards of target opponent's library. You may play lands and cast spells from among cards exiled this way without paying their mana cost. This is just so freaking cool. So this is a really... It's hard to evaluate this card. I think if I was ever going to build like an actual mono black deck, I would probably have this as the commander just because it's really unique and it seems really fun. Because in a weird way, that first ability is almost like a political tool. Like you'd be like, hey, I want to hit you with a couple small creatures. And in exchange, you'll be able to pay life and draw some cards. That seems pretty good. And if I'm seeing this right, I think that would mean that like if I hit you with like 3 creatures, you could pay 3 life and draw 3 cards. That seems pretty good. So in some ways, it seems like a decent political tool. But then in the late game, you can just dump 7 mana into this thing and just get tons of card advantage, which obviously like stealing cards from your opponent's deck is not as good as just playing cards in your own deck, right? Because you don't know if the cards that are in their deck are going to work well with what you're trying to do in your deck. But even then, it just seems really cool. It seems really strong. So in a weird way, I might actually add it in my group hug deck just for that first ability. I could see me maybe adding it in my Prosper deck, the one where I'm the Rakdos Exile matters. I could see that. Yidris, my Chaos deck. If I built a mono black deck, I would probably build this. I mean, this card is so cool. I really want to play it. What do you think of that card?
I I mean, yeah, it's cool. It's good. I could see it being a pretty good commander. Um, I don't know if I can think of any use for it personally, but it's maybe. I mean, I could see it going in my Shadrick Silver Quill deck,
Hmm.
but that might be it.
Yeah, because again, your Shadrix deck is like
It's like
borderline group hug,
it's like
but it's like
deceptive.
yeah, it's like I'll make micro deals with you, but in exchange, I'm going to steal your soul. Yeah, it's
I love it. It's a
whereas
fun deck.
my group hug deck has no win cons, so which
I don't know. For a little bit in that Rainbow Week, you almost had me.
I almost had you. So that game, we filmed the 5 color game. That game is going to come out January 20th. Make sure you're subscribed because that's tied for my favorite game so far this season. We've again filmed 7 games so far, and my 2 favorite games we filmed so far are the Christmas special and that one. Really fun. Yeah, it's really cool. I played my group hug deck and I kind of almost won in a weird way. So I think if I planned ahead better, I actually would have won. But live and learn. So Steven, your number 2, I think. Are we all ready to number 2? Is Gwena Eye of Gaia for 2 and a green, sorry. It's a legendary elf druid scout that's a 2/3, and you can tap it to add 2 mana in any combination of colors. Spend this mana only to cast creature spells or activate abilities on creatures or creature spells. Creature cards. And then whenever you cast a creature spell with power 5 or greater, put a 1/1 counter on it and untap it. Oh, I see the potential here. Okay, yeah,
It's good, isn't it? Just good. I mean, I don't
that's
even
really good.
I don't even know if I need to explain what I would put it. It like it's just a good card.
Well, and I think specifically what makes it good is it's tapped to add 2 mana, not just of one color, of any combinations. So you could tap
Hmm.
this for if you need double green, boom, you got double green. If you need it for, I don't know, red, white, boom, you got it. Like
Yeah,
it, that is what makes it so good. And then the fact that every now and then you're going to be able to untap it and use it again seems pretty good.
and make it bigger.
Right. Which I don't know how much that matters, but what do you think about the limitation of it only being able to use it for creature stuff? Do you think it's a downside that's like, yeah, I'm not going to be able to use this to like cast my board wipes or whatever? Because that's what I like about mana dorks. If I'm going to cast a board wipe and I have mana dorks, I use the mana dorks to cast the board wipe, and then I use my lands to then rebuild after the board wipe. That's the
Hmm.
benefit. But with like Gwena, you can't do that, which maybe Gwena would be too strong because 3 mana for a creature that's a mana dork is like kind of like the cutoff is like, do I even want to spend 3 mana on a mana dork? Like it better be pretty good for me to do that. So what do you think about that? Have you thought about it from that angle before?
No, but I mean, the point is that it's good in a very creature heavy deck, and really any heavy creature heavy deck that's green. I mean, really any of them. Um, I would debate putting it in almost any green deck that's creature heavy, or more specifically, if you're playing creatures with power at least 5 or greater. I know this card would be good even in my Ronos deck, which is it's mono green, and it's just a lot of mana ramp, and it's just very creature heavy, and I've got a lot of big creatures in there. Um, and I know that would be good in that deck. Although at the same time, I could also see potentially being good in Joda, as it would help fixing mana.
Yeah, especially since you like have a pretty budget mana base in that deck. I think this card would help
Yeah,
make
I
your
don't
deck
like
more
spending
consistent.
like $100 on one lamp. So
Well, I'm not saying spend $100 on your land on one land. I'm saying spend $100 on your land package. That's how you do it. Honestly, the land base in my group hug deck is really expensive, and uh it hurts to think about, but it's consistent. It pretty much always works. Yeah, I think that card's really good. I think I'll probably I'm thinking about building a toolbox deck, like a creature toolbox deck, where it's like most of the deck is just creatures, and all the creatures just have abilities, and that's how I make up for the fact that I don't have sorceries in an instance or very many of them. So I could see that this being an all-star in that deck, but we'll see.
It's a great card.
Yeah. I think as far as 3 mana mana dorks go, this might be the best one. Especially the fact that it's an elf. Like a lot of like elf decks are going to love this too.
Yeah, that's definitely true too. Yeah.
All right, so my number 2 card is Teferi Temporal Pilgrim. It's another. I think there's only 2 planeswalkers in this set. Well, if we're not counting the backside of Erza, I'm surprised neither of us talked about Erza. Have you seen the backside of the Erza, the meld one?
Oh, you know what? I don't think I did.
Okay, I'll read it to you in just a second. So I'm gonna read you Teferi Temporal Pilgrim, and then I'm gonna give my 2 thoughts on it. And while you're giving your couple thoughts on it, I will look up Erza and I'll read it to you. It's broken. So Teferi Temporal Pilgrim for 3 blue, legendary planeswalker with 4 starting loyalty. He says he has a static ability that says whenever you draw a card, put a loyalty counter on it. For 0 loyalty, draw a card. So that kind of counts as a +1. And then for -2, create a 2/2 blue spirit creature token with vigilance. And whenever you draw a card, put a 1/1 counter on this creature. And then -12, target opponent chooses a permanent they control and returns it to their hand. Then they shuffle each non-land permanent they control into their library. This is really good. I think this Planeswalker being 5 mana pushes it out of the realm of being that good and constructed. But I could think of a couple decks where this is really good in Commander. Like if you're playing a Planeswalker deck, this is really good. If you're playing any kind of like blue, like Spellslinger style deck, or if you're like, I have a Queza deck, which is all about drawing cards and gaining extra value from drawing cards. This gains extra points in that. That honestly, if we're being real, just that -2 to create that 2/2 creature with vigilance, that's going to get huge if you don't answer it. That by itself makes it pretty dang good. But
yeah, that's a good creature token.
So yeah, what do you think about? Do you have any other thoughts on that one?
I don't play Planeswalkers a whole lot. Let's see. I have 2 Planeswalkers in my Ronos deck. I have 2 Planeswalkers in my Werewolf deck. I think I have 1 in Shadrix.
So you just don't play a lot of. You just don't play a lot of Planeswalkers.
I think that's it. Yeah, so I don't have any others.
Okay.
So I don't play them a whole lot. So, but it does seem to be pretty good.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a Teferi.
Yeah.
See, I think although this card's really good, I don't think it's like broken. Like
no, some of the plane. Yeah.
Are.
Yeah. Some of the the Teferis are broken. Like this is pretty fair by Teferi standards, but it's cool. It's good. It's just not broken.
Yeah.
All right. So, let me read you this Erza real quick because I'm surprised it didn't end up in either of our top 10. So this is Meld. We're bringing Meld back from when was the last time? Eldritch Moon was the last time we did Meld.
No, that's a long time ago.
Yeah. So, you need 2 cards in order for this meld to happen. So first off, you need the Might Stone and Weak Stone. It's a 5 mana legendary artifact that says when it enters the battlefield, choose 1, draw 2 cards. Target creature gets -5/-5 until end of turn. Those are the only 2 modes. And then you can tap it to add 2 colorless mana. Spend this mana only to cast you can't cast this. You have to spend it on artifacts. That's what I'm trying to say. So you have to have that in play. And then you have to have Erza, Lord Protector. So for 1 white blue, it's a 2/4 human artificer that says artifact, instants, and sorceries you cast cost 1 less to cast. If you have both of these in play, you can pay 7 mana to meld them. And it turns into Erza Planeswalker, which if I pull this up, I don't know if you can see this on the camera. That's what it looks like. Look at all those abilities.
That's too many.
Yeah, it's broken. Well, I mean, if you think about it, it's going to be 2 cards like this. So they have a lot of room to put a lot of words on it. But let me read this to you. So Erza Planeswalker. It has 7 starting loyalty. And then it static ability says you may activate the loyalty abilities of Erza Planeswalker twice each turn rather than only once. So plus if that by itself is like, oh, it doesn't matter what those abilities are, you're going to get good value. So +2 artifact, instants, and sorcery spells you cast this turn cost 2 less to cast. You gain 2 life. +1 draw 2 cards, then discard a card. 0 create 2 1/1 colorless soldier creature tokens. -3 exile target non-land permanent. That's really good because it comes in with 7, so you can do 2 modes. You can exile 2 things, and Erza will still be alive. And then -10 artifact and planeswalkers you control gain indestructible until end of turn. Destroy all non-land permanents.
It does too much, and it's
so good.
I mean, it's good that it is a meld one because then it becomes a lot harder.
It's a lot harder, especially in Commander where it's singleton. And then in Constructed, it's not that good either because neither of those cards are super impressive in Limited in Constructed. And then it's 7 mana to meld them. So like I think it's fair-ish, but if you can flip it, oh my God, you are probably going to win the game. It's so good. All right, so Steven, knowing that card now, would it have made it into your top 10?
No.
Too many words?
Not even that. It's just the meld thing that gets me because it's like you got to meld these other 2 creatures together. You need both of these on the battlefield. Then you have to pay all that extra mana to get it. It just seems to.
I think if you're playing, someone played that as the commander on the newest episode of Game Nights, and it was good. So I think in some kind of like spell slinger artifact style deck where Urza is the commander just for like value, I think it's good. And then it's like it will sometimes meld just on accident. That's the right way to play it. But if you're playing it to actually meld it, you're going to be disappointed because I don't think it's going to happen very often.
Yeah.
But if it happens, I think you will win most times. So Steven's number 1 card for the list is Mox Amber. For 0 mana, it's a legendary artifact that says tap it to add 1 mana of any color among legendary creatures and planeswalkers you control. Talk us through it.
It's amazing. I don't have to say it. It's amazing, especially in Commander, and especially the more colors you have in the deck. So when this
it's gonna go in Joda.
Long and Joda, obviously, because it first came out in Dominaria, right?
Yeah, it was originally printed in Dominaria,
and
2018 or whatever.
When I saw that they were reprinting it, I was like, oh yes, maybe the card can go down in price, and maybe I have a chance of finally getting it. Because it's like I think it was like $50 before.
There was a period of time where it was more than that.
Oh,
I don't know how much it is now, but it is, yeah. Well, so this is something that we have. This is the first time. 30 now. Oh, okay. So this is the first time we've mentioned one of these, but they kind of did like what they did with the Mystical Archives in Strixhaven, where every pack has, in Strixhaven, they had every pack had 1 classic spell in a new art treatment. And this is what they're doing for this. They're doing 1 classic artifact in the retro frame. And I think that's awesome. I think and what's also fun is that these are limited, or they're legal if you play limited. So like these printings, they're not changing the legality, but if you're playing draft or sealed, you can use them, which is kind of cool. I'm sure every now and then that's going to be like game breaking, but you want to hear a sad story about Mox Amber? When we went to the Dominaria pre-release, that was my pre-release foil. And I didn't see the value in it. I was like, because that was like before we were really into Commander. Like I was mostly playing like Standard and Modern. And like we did play Commander, but we weren't like crazy about it. There's a guy there who was like, I'll give you $100 for that right now. And I was like, So I held on to it a little bit. And then like a year later, I sold it, and it was for less than $100. And what's sad about this story is that there's two situations where I could have been happier. There's a situation where, one, I could have sold it to the guy and got $100 for it, which is more than I made off of it anyways. Or the better option is I keep it because now I wish I had one. Because now I mostly play Commander. So
You're cool.
I know.
So the reason why it's number one is because it's a card that I really like. It's really good, and debatably, I would say probably any commander deck that's more than one color, and um, and the fact that it's getting reprinted hopefully means that it'll go down in price, which it has already a little
it
bit.
has already, and the set just came out. So
Yeah, so
it will only go
good.
down more.
Good. And I saw that they have a lot of other like artifacts that they're reprinting. I know one of them, Helm of the Host. I love that card.
Helm of
I need to
the
put
Host got kind of expensive because it's a CEDH staple. Like there's a combo where it's like if you have Godo as your commander and you have Helm of the Host, you create infinite combat steps and win the game. So like yeah,
Yeah.
because of that combo, it's like really expensive. It's like $15,
Well,
$16 or now.
see,
And it's
I
just
just
an
want to put it.
equipment.
See, I just want to put it in Ajax and Nev so I can create more copies of Ajax and Nev that aren't legendary, and then I'll create even more and more tokens. Okay,
Steven's
because the
like,
more
I'm not
copies,
going to go infinite with Helm of the Host, but I'm going to go so bonkers with it that you're going to wish I had just gone infinite and win the game. Instead, I'm just going to make you suffer. Stroking like a true Simic player.
correct. I don't know if I have that card, or I don't know if maybe I sold. I know I used to have Helm of the Host, and I don't know if I still have it or if maybe I gave it to you. I don't know.
I
But
don't think you did because I remember I added the Godo and Helm of the Host combo to my combo deck, my CEDH deck, just as like a backup win con. Um, and I remember I had to actually buy a copy of it because I didn't have one. So
well,
yeah,
I might still have it in my rare and mythic binder. So
yeah,
I guess I don't know why it's not in my Ajax and Nev deck
maybe you
now.
should look for it. It's a good
Yeah.
card. All right, so my last card is Lauren of the Third Path. She is a legendary human artificer for 2 and a white. She's a 2/1 with vigilance. When she enters the battlefield, destroy up to one target artifact or enchantment, and then tap it. You and target opponent each draw a card. This is awesome. Like we think about like white being good at removing artifacts and enchantments, but like green is the color that ends up getting the creatures that do it. So why is this? So like it took us this long to get a good white creature that ETB blow up an artifact or enchantment at a good rate, a 3-mana 2/1 with upside. It's great. And then also you have the upside of if it gets to stick around, it's gonna be a political tool in Commander. It's gonna draw you cards, and you can be like, "Hey, I'll help you out." You can draw a card. So it might go in my group hug deck just for that. But I think just if you're playing a white creature deck, you probably just want this. And I just looked it up. It's only $2, and it's probably gonna go down in price still because it's the set just came out. Like this, it's great. I feel like if you're playing white creatures, this is probably a staple.
Okay.
I know it's not a very flashy number one card, Steven, but
Yeah,
the
no, I was kind
practicality,
of wondering why.
the practicality of it is so good. It's a card that I've always wanted, and they finally did it.
I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad card. It's just, it's, yeah. I mean, it's good.
See, oh, hey, and here's this. Because that it's vigilance, right? You can attack with it and then later tap it to draw a card. Even better. Even better.
Okay.
So overall, what do you think of the set?
Well, I mean, I think there are cool things that they did with it. I think reprinting a lot of artifacts is really cool, and just having an overall theme of artifacts is something that we haven't really seen really since probably Kaladesh when they kind of started introducing like vehicles and stuff.
Has it really been that long since we've had an artifact set? That doesn't sound right. Is that true?
I don't know. I don't keep up with Magic as much as you do. But and this one, I think I like. At least I like the theme of it more than Kaladesh.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
and
Kaladesh was broken because we also had energy stuff floating around. And energy was, I mean, in Commander, energy isn't that bad, but in yeah, it's in Commander, energy's not very good, but in Standard, it was broken. So
yeah.
Kaladesh was like brutally unfun. Yeah.
Anyways, um, I like how I like the Transformer cards, and I like they're reprinting a lot of and just a lot of these have unique arts for them because they're doing like, aren't they having like two or three different arts for each of them? Each of the artifacts they're reprinting, they have like different arts for them.
Oh, I don't know. I thought it was like the Mystical Archive. Oh, well, okay, there is. There's like the normal art, right? And they just have the new frame. And then there's also another version where it's like the sketch, like they're designing the artifact. Those are awesome. Those are so cool looking. I don't know if there's a third one. I know that there's both of those. But yeah, it's cool. And I just like it when they do that. I hope I don't want that to be something that they do every set, obviously, but like that's part of why I liked Strixhaven so much. And that's part of why I like this set so much. I think I lost you. Okay, well, we're running long. Steven looks like he's disconnected, staring deep into the abyss with those beady eyes. Yep, and he's gone. That's okay. We are ending the end of the video anyways. So thanks for sticking around. This was fun. Let me know in the comments. What do you think about the Brothers War? What are some of your favorite cards? Is there something really awesome that we failed to mention? Let us know. And we will be back later. We'll probably do another top 10 when the next set comes out. We're next year is going to be really cool with new sets. Steven, hello again. I was just telling the people, bye, see you later. Did you have any final thoughts on the Brothers War or anything like that before we say bye?
Oh, I'm back. Pause. No.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
One more thing I forgot to mention is that on shorter podcast episodes, not this one obviously, we are going back to something we used to do, which is Q&As at the end of the episode. So if you guys have any questions Magic the Gathering related that you would like us to answer, leave a comment or reach out to us on Facebook or Instagram at Geek and Seek, and we will answer them at the end of the podcast. All right, thanks. See you later.